Hey everybody, wanted to talk this week about reinforcers. Obviously important in ABA, you know this. But one of the mistakes I see amongst new BCBAs or sometimes RBTs um, is that we tend to oversimplify reinforcers, and we tend to put our kids in a box in terms of what the reinforcers are. And so one of the examples of this is, we tend to offer in terms of reinforcement, and even when we're doing like preference assessment and choices and reinforcer assessments, things like that, we tend to put the kiddos around things that we think most kids will be reinforced by. And I think it's one of those things that is helpful, because a lot of kids love very simple, tangible things, right? Toys, edibles, goldfish, and fruit snacks, for example, digital screen time, iPads, movies, video games, things like that. And so we tend to kind of lump kids into that. But it gets hard because when a kiddo gets older and has had maybe access to these things rather frequently, we have to find outside the box ways to motivate them. And there's a couple ways you can do that. So let's say you have a 10 or 12-year-old. I'm thinking back even to a case I had. A 10 or 12-year-old who has maybe had access to this for the most part, most of their life. They might be, very verbal, can communicate wants and needs, can actually wait for a lot of, preferred stimuli, can wait if we say, listen, I'm sorry, we can't give you this till the end of the day. They're more or less okay with it. You don't see a lot of high magnitude, maladaptive behaviors and things like that. And what you have is a kiddo that, for all intents and purposes, we faded reinforcement down maybe, or over the course of their learning history, it's been faded down. And they're we would use terms like patient or flexible, when things come and go. The good news is you don't see a lot of problem behaviors, quote unquote, out of this, or maladaptive behavior out of these kids, but they're a little bit harder to motivate because they can, for the most part, find motivation in a lot of their environment just naturally. It's like, okay, well, you're going to take away the video game, that's fine, or at least the video game's not available, maybe it's just not there, and I'll draw a picture, I'll read a book, they can pivot away, and they're flexible and everything like that. That's a good thing. It's a really, really good thing, because that's, I think, one of the things we forget is important about working in ABA. We're trying to get skills to increase. We are trying to get maladaptive behavior to decrease. We are also trying to do something else, which is really, really important. We're trying to fade their dependency on a variety of different reinforcers so they can be more flexible when those reinforcers aren't available. Because if we've taught a kid to only man for a tablet and the tablet's always available, when they go out and they leave our services, what are they going to do when the tablet's not available? They're going to have a negative behavior. And so how we really help them? We have to get them to a point where they can function in the world and be flexible, and some of their most, favored and preferred items and activities aren't available. So all this to say, you have a kiddo that's gotten to that point, and that's what you want. So what do you do? And I think one of the things we need to start thinking about is getting buy-in from parents and starting to plan things like events. And that's really what I want to talk about. And that's really my quick hitter for today is kids like events. And that means they might have scaled in, I don't know how to put this, outside the control of the center or the in-home environment as you know it as a BCBA. Because when you're in session with a kiddo, the RBT has control over the reinforcers, and you can offer the digital stuff and you can offer the toys and the edibles to kids. But once they get old enough and that's not as motivating, you have to rely on reinforcers that are out there. So you have to do things like, hey, let's go to the trampoline park if you can turn in all of your assignments, across a 3-week stretch, And so what that means is you have to have a really good relationship with the family. But you need to you need to pull your mind away from thinking about things that are tangible, edible, digital, things that they might be able to do without, or maybe they aren't terribly motivated, or maybe it's things they're going to get anyways, you just don't have control of it. You have to start thinking about, how can I manage reinforcers that are out there? And that's where you get parent buy-in. And so, a lot of these kiddos, as they fade off, you're going to have to do things like plan events, whether that's birthday parties or going swimming or doing, like we mentioned, the trampoline park, or going to a ball game or something like that. The shift in focus is really the purpose of what I'm trying to say, away from just managing behavior, just motivating preferred behavior with these tangible, immediate reinforcers and scaling them up to reinforcer that's not immediately available, that might not be in the home or in the center, and that might be down the road a little bit. It might happen this weekend. This weekend we get to go to for ice cream. If you can go through your week without engaging in, pestering your sister or something like that. These are actually a lot more, like maybe age appropriate even maladaptive behaviors. But we have to start using things outside the box to motivate them. And so my challenge to you for this week is basically this. It's nothing complicated. Look at your caseload. Look at the kids you work with that you're teaching. Are there kids there that have some maladaptive behaviors, but really the things in the environment aren't motivating for them, or the things in the environment aren't there and they've been taken away? Like it's not something that matters too much. The edibles don't work anymore. The toys don't work anymore. The digital screen time, for most kids, it's not a take it or leave it thing. Most of them really do love screen time, but maybe it's something you can put on the only available on the weekend, contingent on certain things. Look at some of these kids. They're probably going to be a little bit older, 10, 12, 14, something like that. And see if you can think outside the box with coming up with motivators, but think outside of the center, think outside of the school, think outside of the home, think about less frequent one-offs, and think about getting parent buy-in. So that way you can set up an event, something along those lines. So these are my digressions for this week. These are my thoughts and everything. It's really aimed at getting you to pivot away from, the reinforcers that are in your absolute control, and getting buy-in from parents to think outside the box, to offer something that's maybe a little bit more down the road and a little bit more distal to your situation. So that's it for this week. Thanks so much. Happy Friday.